A trial court in Delhi relied on a sketch made by a minor victim of rape to convict her rapist, who is the child's uncle. The 10-year-old had been staying with her aunt and uncle and was sexually assaulted several times over at their home. The uncle was subsequently arrested. This matter came to light about 2 years after the crime was committed. The defense argued during trial that the girl was tutored, and not a competent witness. And in what legal experts are looking at as an unexpected turn of events, the child who was given crayons to keep her occupied during the hearing, sketched what looked like an abandoned house, a girl holding balloons and a dress lying beside her. That sketch was up on your screens. That sketch was looked at by the presiding judge as, quote, impressions of her ordeal, and the victim was ruled to be a competent witness. Eventually, that trial resulted in the conviction of the 10-year-old's uncle for rape.
This is a landmark judgment by a Delhi trial court wherein for the first time the judges have taken into consideration a sketch that a minor girl made to show that how an emotional and mental journey of the girl has led her till here. In fact, the accused in this case has been sentenced to 5 years imprisonment under the POCSO Act. But legal experts and lawyers say that it takes very long for cases of POCSO to come to a conclusion. Hopefully, such kind of consideration by the judges will pave way for future cases as well. In New Delhi, this is Milan Sharma for Mirror Now.
बच्ची की जो काउंसलिंग की रिपोर्ट जो काउंसलर ने बात करी थी उससे भी ये आई थी खुल के कि बच्ची के साथ जो ऑफेंस हुआ था वो सेक्शन 6 में बनता था। पुलिस ने भी जो चार्जशीट फाइल करी थी सेक्शन 6 ऑफ पॉक्सो फाइल करी थी। एक्यूज के खिलाफ जो कोर्ट ने चार्ज फ्रेम किए थे वो भी सेक्शन 6 में थे। लेकिन जब फाइनल जजमेंट आया उस टाइम पे कोर्ट ने सेक्शन 6 के लिए एविडेंस को वीक पाया और उसको सेक्शन 10 में कन्वर्ट कर दिया। सेक्शन 6 में अगर इसको कन्विक्शन होती तो मिनिमम 10 इयर्स इम्प्रिजमेंट था, मैक्सिमम लाइफ है। सेक्शन 10 में क्या मिनिमम 5 है, मैक्सिमम 7 इयर्स। सेक्शन 6 के लिए हम हाई कोर्ट जा सकते हैं, लेकिन वो एविडेंस आने के बाद होगा। बाकी जो एक्यूज के लिए है तो एक्यूज की कन्विक्शन उसको 1 साल हो या 5 साल हो, अपील में तो जाएगा एक्विटल के लिए। ये जजमेंट इसलिए लैंडमार्क हो गया है कि इस फर्स्ट टाइम हुआ है कि कोर्ट ने एक स्केच को एज ए कोरोबरेशन यूज किया जिसमें कि बच्चे की मनोस्थिति को वो स्केच दर्शा रहा था।
Girl cannot be called as a competent witness, being she changing her stand again and again. But the court took the notice of her testimonies. That's why she has been convicted from Section 6 to Section 10 of the POCSO Act, which provides for the lesser punishment. And above all, the court took the notice of the, I would say, picture which she has prepared, on the basis of which the girl was standing on one side and the clothes were there lying on the other side. That yes, there was some kind of thing which is going in the girl's mind, and on the basis of that, the court has come to the conclusion, along with the support of the testimony, that yes, this incident has happened. But however, since it was a case of the prosecution of Section 6, we succeeded in bringing to the lesser punishment under Section 10.
उसने मुझे बताया था स्टार्टिंग में, मतलब सेक्सुअल अब्यूज़ के बारे में उसने मुझे बहुत टाइम के बाद बताया, जब मैंने उसे हिम्मत बंधाई। क्योंकि इस तरह के बच्चों में होता है कि उनके में विश्वास की कमी बहुत ज़्यादा हो जाती है, और बेसिकली जब घर वाले ही कुछ उनके साथ ऐसा अब्यूज़ करते हैं तो सबसे ज़्यादा उनका ट्रस्ट ख़त्म हो जाता है। डर होता है कि हम बताएंगे तो हमें तो गलत नहीं समझा जाएगा, तो सेल्फ ब्लेम होता है, तो बहुत सारे साइकोलॉजिकल फीलिंग्स होते हैं उन बच्चों के।
Right, let's go back to what this case is about and why this is important. This is a judgment of a trial court in Delhi where a 10-year-old girl was in court. In the course of the proceedings, her uncle, whom she lived with for a short period, has been accused of raping her. The defense in this case attempted to discredit the 10-year-old girl, going on to dub her as an incompetent witness by saying that she was tutored to make these allegations of rape. In the course of that hearing, the child who was given a box of crayons, as is typically done in a POCSO court in the course of hearing, to keep the child occupied, sketched what you're seeing on your screens right now. A child, presumably, as it seems, holding a few balloons in her hand. There is a dress lying close by. Now, the judge in this case looked at that particular drawing, at that particular sketch, and this is the assessment he has arrived at. He said that these are impressions of the ordeal that this child could have gone to. In fact, the judge says, quote, if the elements of this drawing are considered in the background of facts and circumstances of this case, then the commission of sexual assault upon her by somebody in her house, right, after undressing her becomes evident. Therefore, I find the child victim to be a competent witness. And subsequently, that judgment, of course, goes on to say that the uncle in this case has been convicted. Let's try and get some perspective on what this means. Anuja Kapoor, lawyer, joins us on the phone line. Appreciate you speaking to Mirror now. I want you to weigh in on whether this is, in that sense, a first of its kind. A judge taking into consideration a sketch made by a 10-year-old victim in the POCSO court, saying that this sketch, to his mind, is the impressions of the ordeal that the child went through, and that is taken as, in some manner, factored in as evidence before convicting this man.
Yes, and I would call it as in victimology. Now, this is a new concept, and I'm very happy that in India, the victimology system is also coming up. So what is victimology? Victimology is about victim rights. It's about victims looking the law through the victim perspective. All right. Now, this is what has happened in this case. So as the child was sitting and she just drew something out of vaguely. We will never say that the child was being forced to draw something or she was prepared to draw something. No, because she never knew that the child will be getting the crayons and the paper. So we can say that it was evident in her mind when she has drawn those balloons. So we can imagine that the balloons and the rape which was being committed. Now, here rape was a digital rape. Now, as the rape is being extended from a penetration to the digital rape, so here the digital rape which happened. So, uncle has been committing sexual act with this child for a pretty long time. And because he was in, and this is not a new thing, this is an incest, and this has been happening. So what we talk about is the rape with the child is been happening. It's just that the child is not able to put herself or himself in the court or in the court of the law and tell them about their ordeal. So here the counselors, the psychologists, they come up. And here the child is being studied. The child, in its subconscious mind, it was so terrible and so traumatic. The event is where the child remembers each and every event. In a court of law, we talk about, when we talk about crime and criminal intent, we talk about circumstantial evidences. Here, documents don't apply. Here, circumstantial evidences, events, they are being lined up. So this child,
right.
That is why the testimony of the child became a contemporary witness.
Ms.
Why?
Kapoor,
Because the child drew it.
Right. Ms. Kapoor, it's very interesting what you're pointing out. You're referring to something something called victimology, and you're saying perhaps that we are just sort of beginning to appreciate victimology in the course of trial, particularly in child sexual abuse cases. Would it be fair to say that the use of something like victimology is inconsistent, though POCSO trials are held in camera, and therefore reporters such as I haven't been able to watch how a trial is conducted. I've spoken to several social activists and lawyers in the past who say that it pretty much depends on the judge how a trial proceeds, and there is a lack of training too among POCSO judges. So to that effect, you would say that this is welcome and there should be more consistency in the application of concepts such as victimology.
Very beautifully said by you. I really congratulate you. You just, the way you deliberated, it's really nice. Yes. Now the judges have become more sensitive to the victimology. Now they have started understanding that two things will be coming up, which you'll be seeing in the near future, because I have done victimology diploma. And I'm even talking about restorative justice, which we are really looking into POCSO law only. So we are trying to bring up this, and we are trying to sensitize the judges and the laws into this also. And where the restorative justice, we're trying to put it in this POCSO law only, so that it will not be an alternative law, but it will be side to side. It will be looked upon from the criminal perspective as well as from the restorative aspect. Now, victimology here is definitely in India, where we're talking about victim in perspective when their testimony will be very important.
Right.
And when you talk about where the testimony of the child will be very important, where the child is given a free right, the free hand, the free will, and will not be considered as not only innocent, but the testimony which the child will speak during that trial will be considered as an example which has just set up, that will be putting the criminal behind or perpetrator behind the bar.
Right.
Because usually the perpetrators, they commit this crime with the children because they know they cannot speak, because they intimidate them with keeping their parents under check or telling them that they will be under harm more. So they have to do it. So you can very well see, the child having that beautiful, balloons in her hand. So that shows. Just imagine. I'm floored with the intelligence of that child. I really
Undoubtedly. Ms. Anuja Kapoor, appreciate you weighing in on this matter and giving us your perspective. I want to bring in another lawyer, someone who's a child rights lawyer as well, Chandra Suman. Now, thank you for speaking to us. What are your views on this trial court judgment and the appreciation of the judge of this particular sketch as, quote, impressions of her ordeal, and factoring that in while pronouncing this judgment, convicting her uncle of raping her?
Yeah, ma'am. In this case, I am the lawyer of this child.
Right.
And
okay.
this child's statement was recorded in my presence.
Please go ahead. Yes.
Yeah. So this is the exceptional cases in which the judge considered the psychology or the psychological impact of the child in deciding the case. Usually what happens in the court considers the legal evidence. What is legal evidence? On that basis, court convicts or acquits the accused. In this case, there is already oral evidence as well as documentary evidence, but court took the corroboration from this sketch. That sketch has been drawn by the child during the trial in the court. On the day when the child has been called in the court for the testimony, during the testimony, the child drawn this sketch, and after appreciating this sketch, the judge took that sketch on judicial file, and the time of deciding the case or time of pronouncing the judgment, judge considered this as a corroboration. So this is a completely new thing and very unique. So this case becomes very unique. Earlier, there is 1-2 cases in which the court take this type of steps, but after the implementing of this POCSO Act, this is the first case in which the court was so much sensitive to consider this sketch to corroborate the main offense.
Right. Mr. Suman, in your experience, I know that child rights lawyers have been fighting for so long for basic facilities in POCSO courts, not just here in Mumbai, but all across the country. Training of POCSO judges has been a big issue as well, so to sensitize them to child rights and how a trial should be held under, of course, training under the Act as well. In your opinion, are things changing? The very fact that in your case, here is a judge who accepted the theory of victimology, where a victim's psychology, an expression of that is taken into account and is factored into the judgment. In your opinion, are things changing in POCSO courts?
In this Delhi metro, the infrastructure in the children courts are much more better than the other state. And out of 6 court complex, 4 court complex has the vulnerable witness deposition room. It means there is a special court for the recording a statement of children. But in this specific case, in this court complex, there is no such type of court child witness room. Despite the court conducted the statement of child in camera, during camera, judge take all precautions which provided under the POCSO to protect the child from any intimidation, any exposure. And this particular judge was so sensitive, not in these cases, in other cases. to protect the interest of child. Other thing is that this child is very smart child, despite coming from this poor strata of the society. Child was very smart, very intelligent, and narrated the whole incident in very specific, consistent manner. That resulted in conviction of the accused.
Right. Mr. Suman, one final question before I let you go, and good on you for having got justice for this young child. Could you describe, for the benefit of our viewers, when the child started sketching? Was she sitting in the courtroom? There's obviously a screen between the accused and the victim, as is supposed to be the practice under POCSO. When did the judge take note of this sketch? Was it brought to the judge's attention? Could you explain the sequence of events?
Yeah. During the recording of testimony, the accused was behind the wooden curtain. Yeah, and child is sitting in just front of the judge on a chair. The public prosecutor was there also. She was also lady, and I was there. And the counselor who is counseling this child, that counselor was from the Haq Center for Child Right. So, in the presence of all these things, because the accused is her fufa.
Right.
Fufa.
Right.
So the child was very scared or in very intimidated state. How can he depose against fufa? So the counselor suggested this child to, during a statement, she engaged herself in this drawing the sketch. So during the testimony, the counselor provided the child, or through the court staff, this color pencils and blank pages. And during testimony, child recorded all these things. And the judge took note of that and asked child what she is doing. Then the judge was informed that the child is drawing something. So judge took this page, and judge has already the background of the case. So judge appreciated this drawing, and judge, or on the basis of this drawing, it is clear that the child is describing the thing which she what can we see? The
Right.
things which she faced.
True.
Yeah. So judge took note of that, and that sketch paper was taken by the judge and put on the judicial file along with the statement of the child. So during appreciation of the statement of the child, judge considered this also, or seek corroboration from this.
What a remarkably brave child she is. Chandra Suman, as I
yeah.
said, good on you for having got justice for this young child, and appreciate you speaking to Mirror now to get us a sense of just how POCSO courts function and why what the judge did today, weighing in victimology while delivering his judgment, could be the beginning perhaps of the use of such tools that are available in bringing justice to child abuse victims. Thanks very much for the moment.